Sleeping Murder by Agatha Christie. Chapter 14. Edith Paget. Mrs. Mountford's back parlor was a comfortable room. It had a round table covered with a cloth, and some old-fashioned armchairs and a stern-looking but unexpectedly well-sprung sofa against the wall. There were china dogs and other ornaments on the mantelpiece, and a framed, colored representation of the Princess Elizabeth and Margaret Rose. On another wall was the king in a naval uniform, and a photograph of Mr. Mountford and a group of other bakers and confectioners. There was a picture made with shells and a watercolor of a very green sea at Capri. There were a great many other things, none of them with any pretenses to beauty or the higher life, but the net result was a happy, cheerful room where people sat round and enjoyed themselves whenever there was time to do so. Mrs. Mountford, née Paget, was short and round and dark-haired, with a few gray streaks in the dark. Her sister, Edith Paget, was tall and dark and thin. There was hardly any gray in her hair, though she was at a guess round about 50. "Fancy now," Edith Paget was saying. "Little Miss Gwenny. You must excuse me, ma'am, speaking like that, but it does take one back. You used to come into my kitchen as pretty as could be. Winnies, you used to say, winnies, and what you meant was raisins. Though why you called them winnies is more than I can say. But raisins was what you meant, and raisins it was I used to give you. Sultanas, that is, on account of the stones." Gwenda stared hard at the upright figure and the red cheeks and black eyes, trying to remember. But nothing came. Memory was an inconvenient thing. "I wish I could remember," she began. "It's not likely you would. Just a tiny little mite, that's all you were. Nowadays, nobody seems to want to go into a house where there's children. I can't see it myself. Children give life to a house, that's what I feel. Though nursery meals are always liable to cause a bit of trouble, but if you know what I mean, ma'am, that's the nurse's fault, not the child's. Nurses are nearly always difficult. Trays and waiting upon, and one thing and another. Do you remember Leonie at all, Miss Gwenny? Excuse me, Mrs. Reed, I should say." "Leonie? Was she my nurse?" "Swiss girl, she was. Didn't speak English very well, and very sensitive in her feelings. Used to cry a lot if Lily said something to upset her. Lily was house parlor maid, Lily Abbott. Young girl and pert in her ways and her bit flighty. Many a game Lily used to have with you, Miss Gwenny. Play peep-bo through the stairs." Gwenda gave a quick, uncontrollable shiver. The stairs. "Then," she said suddenly, "I remember Lily. She put a bow on the cat. There now, fancy you remembering that. On your birthday it was, and Lily, she was all for it. Thomas must have a bow on. Took one off the chocolate box, and Thomas was mad about it. Ran off into the garden and rubbed through the bushes until he got it off. Cats don't like tricks being played on them." "A black and white cat." "That's right. Poor old Tommy. Caught my something beautiful. A real proper mouser." Edith Paget paused and coughed primly. "Excuse me running on like this, ma'am, but talking brings the old days back. You wanted to ask me something?" "I like hearing you talk about the old days," said Gwenda. "That's just what I want to hear about. You see, I was brought up by relations in New Zealand, and of course they would never tell me anything about my father and my stepmother. She was nice, wasn't she?" "Very fond of you, she was. Oh yes, she used to take you down to the beach and play with you in the garden. She was quite young herself, you understand. Nothing but a girl, really. I often used to think she enjoyed the games as much as you did. You see, she'd been an only child, in a manner of speaking. Dr. Kennedy, her brother, was years and years older and always shut up with his books. When she wasn't away at school, she used to play by herself." Miss Marple, sitting back against the wall, asked gently, "You've lived in Dilmouth all your life, haven't you?" "Oh, yes, madam. Father had the farm up behind the hill. Rylands, it was always called. He'd no sons, and Mother couldn't carry on after he died, so she sold it and bought the little fancy shop at the end of the high street. Yes, I've lived here all my life." "And I suppose you know all about everyone in Dilmouth?" "Well, of course, it used to be a small place then. Though there used to always be a lot of summer visitors, and long as I can remember, but nice quiet people who came here every year, not those trippers and charbacks we have nowadays. Good families they were, who'd come back to the same rooms year after year." I suppose, said Giles, that you knew Helen Kennedy before she was Mrs. Halliday? Well, I knew of her, so to speak, and I may have seen her about, but I didn't know her proper until I went into service there. And you liked her, said Miss Marple. Edith Paget turned towards her. Yes, madam, I did, she said. There was a trace of defiance in her manner. No matter what anybody says, she was as nice as could be to me, always. I'd never believed she'd do what she did do. Took my breath away, it did. Although, mind you, there had been talk. She stopped rather abruptly and gave a quick apologetic glance at Gwenda. Instinctively, Gwenda spoke impulsively. I want to know, she said. Please, don't think I shall mind anything you say. She wasn't my own mother. That's true enough, ma'am. And you see, we're very anxious to find her. She went away from here, and she seems to have been quite lost sight of. We don't know where she's living now, or even if she's alive. And there are reasons. She hesitated, and Giles said quickly, legal reasons. We don't know whether to presume death or what. Oh, I quite understand, sir. My cousin's husband went missing after Perez it was, and there was a lot of trouble about presuming death and all that. Real vexing it was for her. Naturally, sir, if there is anything I can tell you, I will help in any way. It isn't as if you were strangers. Miss Gwenda and her whinnies. So funny you used to say it. That's very kind of you, said Giles, so if you don't mind, I'll just fire away. Mrs. Halliday left home quite suddenly, I understand. Yes, sir, it was a shock to all of us, especially to the Major, poor man. He collapsed completely. I'm going to ask you right out. Have you any idea who the man she went away with was? Edith Paget shook her head. That's what Dr. Kennedy asked me, and I couldn't tell him. Lily couldn't either. And of course that Leonie, being a foreigner, didn't know a thing about it. You didn't know, said Giles. But could you make a guess? Now that it's all so long ago, it surely wouldn't matter, even if the guess is all wrong. You must surely have had some suspicion. Well, we all had our suspicions, but mind you, it wasn't more than suspicions. And as far as I'm concerned, I never saw anything at all. But Lily, who, as I told you, was a sharp kind of girl, Lily had her ideas. Had 'em for a long time. Mark my words, she used to say, that chap's sweet on her. Only got to see him looking at her as she pours out the tea. And does his wife look daggers? I see. And who was the chap? Now, I'm afraid, sir, I just don't remember his name. Not after all these years. A Captain Esdale? No, that wasn't it. Emery? No. I have a kind of feeling it began with an E. Or it might have been H. Rather unusual kind of name, but I've never even thought of it for 16 years. He and his wife were staying at the Royal Clarence. Summer visitors? Yes, but I think that he, or maybe both of them, had known Mrs. Halliday before. They came to the house quite often. Anyway, according to Lily, he was sweet on Mrs. Halliday. And his wife didn't like it. No, sir. But mind you, I never believed for a moment that there was anything wrong about it, and I still don't know what to think. Gwenda asked, were they still here at the Royal Clarence when Helen, my stepmother, went away? As far as I recollect, they went away just about the same time, a day earlier or a day later. Anyway, it was close enough to make people talk, but I never heard anything definite. It was all kept very quiet if it was so. Quite a 9 days wonder, Mrs. Halliday going off like that so sudden. But people did say she'd always been flighty. Not that I ever saw anything of the kind myself. I wouldn't have been willing to go to Norfolk with them if I'd thought that. For a moment, 3 people stared at her intently. Then Giles said, Norfolk? Were they going to Norfolk? Yes, sir, they'd bought a house there. Mrs. Halliday told me about 3 weeks before this all happened. She asked me if I'd come with them when they moved, and I said I would. After all, I'd never been away from Dilmouth, and I thought perhaps I'd like a change, seeing as how I like the family. I never heard that they'd bought a house in Norfolk, said Giles. Well, it's funny you should say that, sir, because Mrs. Halliday seemed to want it kept very quiet. She asked me not to speak about it to anyone at all, so of course I didn't. But then she'd been wanting to go away from Dilmouth for quite some time. She'd been pressing Major Halliday to go, but he liked it at Dilmouth. I even believe he wrote to Mrs. Findison, who St. Catherine's belonged to, asking if she'd consider selling it. But Mrs. Halliday was dead against it. She seemed to have turned right against Dilmuth. It's almost as if she was afraid to stop there. The words came out quite naturally, yet at the sound of them, the three people listening again stiffened to attention. Giles said, "You don't think she wanted to go to Norfolk to be near this man whose name you can't remember?" Edith Paget looked distressed. "Oh, indeed, sir, I wouldn't like to think like that. And I don't think it, not for a moment. Besides, I don't think that. I remember now. They came up up north somewhere, that lady and gentleman did. Northumberland, I think it was. Anyway, they liked to come in south for a holiday because it was so mild down here." Gwenda said, "She was afraid of something, wasn't she? Or of someone? My stepmother, I mean." "I do remember, now that you say that." "Yes?" "Lily came into the kitchen one day. She'd been dusting the stairs, and she said, 'Ructions,' she said. She had a very common way of talking sometimes, Lily said, so you must excuse me. So I asked her what she meant, and she said that the missus had come in from the garden with the master into the drawing room, and the door to the hall being open, Lily'd heard what they'd said. 'I'm afraid of you.' That's what Mrs. Halliday had said. And she sounded scared, too, Lily said. 'I've been afraid of you for a long time. You're mad. You're not normal. Go away and leave me alone. You must leave me alone. I'm frightened. I think underneath I've always been frightened of you.' Something of that kind. Of course, I can't say now to the exact words, but Lily, she took it very seriously, and that's why after it all happened, Edith Paget stopped dead. A curious, frightened look came over her face. 'I didn't mean, I'm sure,' she began. 'Excuse me, madam, my tongue runs away with me.' Giles said gently, 'Please tell us, Edith. It's really important, you see, that we should know. It's all a long time ago now, but we've got to know.' 'I couldn't say, I'm sure,' said Edith helplessly. Miss Marple asked, 'What was it Lily didn't believe, or did believe?' Edith Paget said apologetically, 'Lily was always one to get ideas in her head. I never took no notice of them. She was always one for going to the pictures, and she got a lot of silly, melodramatic ideas that way. She was out at the pictures of the night it happened, and what's more, she took Leonie with her. And very wrong that was, and I told her so. 'Oh, that's all right,' she said. 'It's not leaving the child alone in the house. You're down in the kitchen, and the master and the missus will be in later anyway, and that child never wakes up once she's up to sleep.' But it was wrong, and I told her so, though of course I never knew about Leonie going till afterwards. If I had, I'd have run right up, you see, to see that you, Miss Gwenda, were quite all right. You can't hear a thing from the kitchen when the baize door's shut." Edith Paget paused and then went on. "I was doing some ironing. The evening passed ever so quick, and then first thing I knew, Dr. Kennedy came out of the kitchen and asked me where Lily was, and I said it was her night off, but she'd be in any minute now, and sure enough she came in that very minute, and he took her upstairs to the missus' room. Wanted to know if she'd taken any clothes away with her and what. So Lily looked about and told him, and then she come down to me, all agog she was. 'She's hooked it,' she said. 'Gone off with someone. The master's all in. Had a stroke or something. Apparently it's been a terrible shock to him.' More fool he. He ought to have seen it coming. 'You shouldn't speak like that,' I said. 'How do you know she's gone off with anybody? Maybe she had a telegram from a sick relation.' 'Sick relation's my foot,' Lily says. Always a common way of speaking she had, as I said. 'She left a note.' 'Who's she gone off with?' I said. 'Well, who do you think?' Lily said. 'Not likely to be Mr. Soberside's Fane, that's for all his sheep's eyes and the way he follows her around like a dog.' So I said, 'You think it's Captain whatever his name was?' And she said, 'He's my bet, unless it's our mystery man in the flashy car.' That's just a silly joke we had. And I said I don't believe it. Not Mrs. Halliday. She wouldn't do a thing like that. And Lily says, well, it seems she's done it. All this was at first, you understand. But later on, up in our bedroom, Lily woke me up. 'Look here,' she says. 'It's all wrong.' 'What's wrong?' I said, and she said, 'These clothes.' 'Whatever are you talking about?' I said. 'Listen, Edie,' she said. 'I went through her clothes because the doctor asked me to. And there's a suitcase gone and enough things to fill it, but they're the wrong things.' 'What do you mean?' I said. And Lily said she took an evening dress, her gray and silver, but she didn't take her evening belt and brassiere, nor the slip that goes with it, and she took her gold brocade evening shoes, not the silver strap ones, and she took her green tweed, which she never wears until late in autumn, but she didn't take that fancy pullover, and she took her lace blouses, and she only wears those with a town suit. Oh, and her undies, too. They were a job lot. You mark my words, Edie, Lily said. She's not gone away at all. The master's done her in. Well, that made me wide awake. I sat right up and asked her what on earth she was talking about. Just like it was in the news of the world last week, Lily says. The master found she'd been carrying on, and he killed her and put her in the cellar and buried her under the floor. You never hear anything like it because it's under the front hall. That's what he's done. And he packed a suitcase to make it look as though she'd gone away. But that's where she is, under the cellar floor. She never left this house alive. I gave her a piece of my mind then, saying such awful things, but I'll admit I slipped down to the cellar the next morning. But there it was all just as usual and nothing disturbed and no digging been done. And I went and told Lily she'd just been making a fool of herself, but she stuck to it as the master had done her in. Remember, she says, she was scared to death of him. I heard her telling him so. And that's just where you're wrong, my girl, I said, because it wasn't the master at all. Just after you told me that day, I looked out the window, and there was the master coming down the hill with his golf club, so it couldn't have been him she was talking to in the drawing room. It was someone else. The words echoed lingeringly in the comfortable, commonplace sitting room. Giles said softly under his breath, "It was someone else."